She spoke to her grandmother in Mandarin and lost her job the very next day. What exactly did a millionaire hear that caused Danielle Harper's life to turn upside down? It all happened on a Thursday afternoon at Juniper and Ash, a high-end fusion restaurant in Santa Monica where a seared scallop costs $34 and the regulars never ask about the price. The lunch rush had just died down. The lighting was warm, the music low, and the air smelled faintly of expensive wine and fresh herbs. Danielle stood near the bar, wiping down a spotless tray with a cloth, dressed in her black button-up shirt and apron, the uniform she had worn for 3 years. She was quick, professional, and calm. The kind of waitress who never let rude customers or chaotic shifts shake her. Regulars knew her name. Staff called her the Wall because nothing rattled her. Then her phone buzzed. Popo, her grandmother, was calling from Taipei, an unusual time for a call, usually reserved for emergencies or birthdays. Danielle stepped behind the service wall, tucked between the espresso machine and the wine rack, and answered softly in Mandarin. It was a quick, gentle conversation about Popo's health, a doctor's visit, and a medication mix-up. Not more than 30 seconds. Then she hung up, slipped the phone back into her apron, and went back to work. What Danielle didn't realize was that Charles Remington III, a powerful tech investor sitting at the VIP table, was listening. He wasn't just any customer. He was the kind of man who liked control, consistency, and being served by people who didn't cause any waves. He'd been waited on by Danielle before, 15 times, maybe more, and never had a problem. But that day, something in his expression changed. A flicker of disgust passed across his face so quickly you might have missed it if you blinked. He said nothing, but by the next morning, Danielle was fired. Danielle didn't know what she had done wrong. She woke up that morning to a text from the restaurant manager. "We need to talk. Come in at 10 a.m. Confused and nervous, she arrived early, wiping her hands on her apron as she stepped into the quiet back office. The manager, a stern woman named Lisa, didn't hesitate. "We heard you speaking another language yesterday during your shift," she said flatly. "That makes some of our guests uncomfortable." Danielle blinked. "It was just a quick call to my grandmother. It was private." Lisa shook her head. "Look, Charles Remington is one of our biggest spenders. If he's uncomfortable, we have to act. You're let go, effective immediately." Danielle felt the room spin. Fired for speaking to her own grandmother? The injustice hit her like a punch. Outside, the city bustled with people who didn't care about fairness or kindness. Her phone buzzed again, a message from Popo. "Are you okay, child?" But Danielle wasn't okay. She wandered the streets, her apron still tied loosely around her waist, unsure what to do next. Her dreams of saving enough to go to college, to build a better life for herself and Popo, felt like they were slipping through her fingers. In that moment, she realized something chilling. Sometimes, the world punishes you for being who you are. Danielle's story didn't stay quiet for long. That afternoon, her coworker Milo sent a simple message to a local service workers group online. "My friend got fired for speaking Mandarin to her grandma during work. No warning, no explanation." It was a small post, but it quickly caught fire. People started sharing their own stories, being told to speak English, being treated like outsiders for their accents or their culture. The outrage was real. News outlets picked it up, and suddenly Danielle found herself at the center of a public conversation about race, language, and power. Yet, despite the attention, she felt conflicted. She hadn't asked for any of this. All she wanted was to work, to be treated fairly, to speak to her family without fear. But the world had other plans. Calls from reporters, messages from strangers offering support. It was overwhelming. Still, every time Danielle looked at her phone, the same question haunted her. How could something so simple, Speaking her grandmother's language cost her everything. The next morning, Danielle sat alone in her small apartment, sunlight streaming through the blinds but offering no warmth. Her phone buzzed nonstop, messages from friends, activists, even strangers who wanted to share their stories or offer help. Yet she felt exhausted, drained from carrying a weight she hadn't asked for. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. This had become about so many others who'd been silenced or dismissed for simply being themselves. Danielle reread Milo's message again, the words echoing in her mind. They're scared of anything they can't control. That hit harder than anything else. It wasn't just about a phone call in Mandarin. It was about fear. Fear of difference. Fear of the unfamiliar. Fear that someone like her didn't belong in a place like Juniper and Ash. She wanted to fight, but the thought of taking on a wealthy investor, a powerful corporation, felt like standing alone against a storm. Still, deep inside, a spark remained. A quiet but fierce resolve that maybe, just maybe, her story could change something. The viral wave crashed harder than anyone expected. By midday, Juniper and Ash's social media was flooded with angry comments, calls for boycotts, and personal stories from workers across the country who had faced similar discrimination. Journalists picked up the story, spinning headlines about racism disguised as brand image and professionalism. Danielle watched it all unfold from her couch, feeling both overwhelmed and strangely empowered. Milo called again, excitement and frustration tangled in his voice. They're trying to spin this now, saying it was about policy, not race. But everyone knows the truth. Danielle nodded silently, though Milo couldn't see. The company's legal team sent a message through Kendra, asking for a meeting. Danielle wasn't sure what to expect. Would they offer an apology, a settlement, or just more silence dressed up as damage control? Whatever it was, Danielle knew one thing. This wasn't just about her job anymore. It was about standing up for every voice that had been silenced in the name of comfort and image. She was ready to face them, no matter how hard it got. The day of the meeting arrived faster than Danielle expected. She dressed simply, jeans, a plain shirt, no makeup. She wasn't here to impress, only to speak her truth. The office felt sterile, cold, like a place where empathy went to die. Jay Roth, the company's legal counsel, sat across from her, calm and controlled, his tone rehearsed. Kendra sat nearby, fidgeting, avoiding Danielle's gaze. Roth started with a formal apology, carefully worded to avoid admitting fault. They offered a financial settlement and a request for confidentiality, a quiet end to a very public story. Danielle listened, every word hitting her like a weight. She thought about the call with Popo, the slow fading of her dignity, the support flooding in from strangers. This wasn't just about money, it was about respect, about justice. Roth's offer felt like a bandage on a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. When he finished, Danielle finally spoke, calm, firm, steady. She refused the settlement. She wanted the truth out. She wanted the company to own what they did. She wanted a change that would protect others. The room fell silent. For the first time, the power was in her hands. Danielle walked out of that office with her head held high, knowing she had made the right choice. The story was no longer just hers. It belonged to everyone who had ever been made to feel invisible because of their language, their culture, or the color of their skin. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Interviews, podcasts, social media floods. People shared their own stories, opening up a conversation that had long been overdue. Juniper and Ash faced mounting pressure. Customers canceled reservations, the local news kept digging, and advocacy groups demanded accountability. Danielle didn't expect an easy road, but she was ready. Her voice, once silenced by fear, had become a beacon for change. And as she looked out at the world now listening, she felt something shift inside. Hope. Because sometimes all it takes is one call, one brave step, to rewrite a story. And Danielle's was just beginning. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that deserve to be heard. Have you ever faced something similar? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. Thanks for watching, and remember, your voice matters.